And we're live once again. It did not take very long. One customer down. I have known what 4 more to go throughout the day. Blah. Non-player characters. Just exactly what are they? You know, just what are they? NPCs have had a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions as long as the concept of an NPC has come up. And if you go back to ancient times, whether they were dramas or plays or skits put on by the whomever and whatever, there's these fictional people that are often utilized to fill in the missing link or the missing pieces to give extra life or visual life to a setting. So the concept of having these non-player characters, or these non-characters, if you will, have been around for a long, long time. And role-playing games specifically. And this is where the term, I make the assumption here, of course, the term NPC and non-player character was coined because these are everybody that are not character driven. So if you look at that for just a second, you have a bunch of players, bunch of people. Let's turn that around because nobody wants to look at me. The handful of players at your table each has a very detailed character that they're striving to bring to life, to use and to improve and to grow through experiences. And there's a lot of misconceptions on experience too, in my opinion. A lot of people, most people get it, but there are always somebody that doesn't quite understand the nuances behind what's going on. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the non-player character versus the character, just non-player character. So it's not really possible to have a character for every encounter that's necessary or needed. So you're not going to, unlike the movies or TV series where they have deep pockets and they can hire one-liners and stand-ins and supporting actors and so on and so forth, whose sole purpose is to come in for one line, maybe 2 lines, or one brief encounter with the important player or the important characters of whatever cinematic achievement they're striving for. So the player, in this case, the GM has to fill in the blanks and become the character for the moment, hence the non-player, right? That sounds like a given. It should be a no-brainer, and I know for the lion's share of you, the serious gamers out there, you understand fully what I'm talking about. So I'm just talking to those who may not quite understand the difference between the two. And for non-player characters themselves, the depth to which they are needed, it varies completely based off of their role and whether or not it's a reoccurring role or it's just a one-in, one-off. You know, and all we have to do, and I like using literary, using movies and TV and all this other stuff for giving examples. So if we look at the vast the vast group of characters in Star Wars, just the original A New Hope, we have scores and scores of non-player characters. We have scores and scores of characters who short-lived, maybe have one line. When you look at a scene where you see all those extras, what comes to mind is the battle or the pre stages of the attack on Yavin, or the rebel base. You see all these technicians and soldiers and janitors and droids and what have you rushing around in the background. Well, that's what these represent as non-player characters. And they're not main characters. They're not even supporting characters. They are just, walk-ons or fill-ins, fluff, to add life to what would be kind of a sterile environment. Now, one of the old TV series that comes to mind, that poor kitten back there, is, I'm trying to think of that British Secret Service or Secret Agent series. Oh, and I know it too. For Pete's sake. You go in there and all you need is one or two or three people. You see the two chief characters, the two chief good guys. You see one or two of the bad guys at any given time. But for the most part, it seems like an empty environment. They purposely went out of their way to not have a bunch of backstop, a bunch of busyness going on in the background. Because, you know, for some people, and I'm one of those people, if I like a movie, I went back and seen Star Wars A New Hope probably no, I was too young. I know I watched the video. I watched the video itself every day for a number of years. I'd go to sleep with it playing on, because it was the first set of videos I dubbed when I bought my first VHS player was the Star Wars trilogy, especially the first movie, and I watched it every night when I went to sleep. Yeah, that's just the me, right? I am first and foremost a Star Wars nut, or I was, till, you know, I don't know, things change, and Disney, right? We're not going there. So in this case, there was so much stuff going on in the background that, you know, you could watch that movie over and over and over again, and many people have and done commentary to this effect. And this is actually a quite common thing now with YouTube and other social media outlets to dissect and to surmise and to discuss and to go on and on and on about all the possible outcomes or things that the writer may have been trying to do, or that the characters are going on. Game of Thrones is a great example of that today, because I'm watching a lot of YouTube video stuff on Game of Thrones, and in this case, there are a whole bunch of people who have just about rewrote the entire backstory for every major character going back thousands of years. Mr. Martin does not need to write a whole lot of back books, because a whole bunch of other people have done it. Sir something or another has a bunch of videos, video books or whatever, audio books that I listen to on occasion that are really good. He's taken a key strategic moments in the past, usually about the Targaryens, and done a 2 or 3 hour monologue on them that's a story. You know, so we've taken one of these little backstop NPCs and blown them way up, turn them into something that they're never intended to be. That's fine, because that's kind of what we do in RPGs and role-playing games. We utilize these things all the time, and in far more ways than most people give credits to. Now, often, when we also have a tendency to separate the NPC from the foe, or in this case, the monsters, the humanoids, and what have you. And when in reality, a group of orcs are non-player characters. And if you're going to have combat with them, you're fighting a bunch of non-player characters. And if one of those non-player characters has a speaking role, well, then he's a lead non-player character and has a little bit of significance because he spoke. Whether it was to challenge the good guys, or to curse the good guys, or to yell at his, to whip his minions into action, or to scream, "Run away!" Whatever it took, it set him above and beyond the rest of the pack. So they all serve that role and purpose. And larger environments, the non-player character is what allows the GM to have ways to segue things, or to pass on pertinent information or bits of puzzles, depending on what we're achieving. So if even at the base level, first level, entry level, green around the ears RPGer who's using a 0 to first level module, there's going to be an NPC or somebody in there who says, "Hey, do you know there's a treasure over here?" Or, "Hey, did you hear about this? There's a dragon's lair on the other side of the hill over there, and you can even see the smoke," right? Right, yeah, okay. But the idea being is that a non-player character has stepped up and filled an important role by passing on information that otherwise would have to just mysteriously appear out of nowhere. And I can think of, that was one of the things that when I saw the original D&D animated cartoon series, brief animated cartoon series, thankfully, I have nothing against the concept. I mean, it was for entertainment purposes and in a way to try to introduce the concept of role-playing to a young generation of potential players. Oh, I understand that fully. But some of the methods behind the writers and stuff was too simplistic in my mind. But then, of course, it was a simpler age. We are a much more complicated, complex group of people today than we were 40 years ago. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. We have a lot more, our younger people today have a lot more collective experience to fall upon than our generation, my generation did. So, and I'm assuming you're in my generation, I guess. Anyway, so when I look at that and I thought about it, and I said, okay, to me, what do we do with these things? What are the point of them? These NPCs are various levels of a means for the game master or storyteller or dungeon master or negotiator or whatever heck you want to call the person that's sitting on the other side of the table with all doing all the preemptive stuff to give you an entertaining evening, going to use to introduce things and to move things along, project, perhaps add dramatic moments from occasion to occasion, or to give everybody an opportunity to see things from a bigger, broader picture. That's what we're going to utilize these non-player characters. So, right or wrong, that's the way they look at it, my opinion, of course. So, until next time, this is Rick saying, game on.